You're listening to the Southampton Delivery Podcast, a podcast dedicated to the Southampton Football Club and all of the SFC fans.
If you want to have guarantees, you have to buy a washing machine.
Fonte with a scooping header.
We don't lose a match, either we win or we learn. And today we learned.
It's infield to Mane, 25 yards out. Lovely ball for Bella. Onside, 1-0. Blue foul shot. Oh my word.
Unbelievable. We ran around the pitch like Bambi on ice. It was very, very embarrassing to watch.
And now, your host, Matt Markstone.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Southampton Delivery Podcast, a podcast and newsletter dedicated to the Southampton Football Club and all of the SFC fans. Available right here on southamptondelivery.com. My name is Matt Markstone. I am the host of the show, and no matter where you are, no matter how you may be listening, whether this is your first time or you've been here before, thanks for making the show part of your day. I hope you enjoy it and hope that you're safe no matter where you are, whether lockdown is easing across Europe, whether you are facing now a mandatory curfew across the United States in many places because of some of the protests and some of the riots that are going on in the name of George Floyd. And no matter how you feel about any of that, I hope that you are safe. And I'll say that my wife and I were actually out in part of one of the protests on Sunday afternoon before things got extremely heated. And this isn't a political show, but I will just say that I think everybody can agree that you're supposed to stand up for what's right. So you see footballers doing that, you see posts that are doing that, but I also think that it has to go beyond that. There has to be some sort of action if you want actual change to happen. This doesn't need to go away, but so often, whatever it is, whether it's a flood, whether it's disease, whether it's some sort of natural disaster, whether it's racism or oppression or whatever it is, it makes the headlines for a couple of days and then it goes away and then we move on with our lives because it's just easier. But if you really want fundamental systematic change, it's going to require much, much more than that. And I've tried to avoid taking any part in that on the podcast account, but sometimes it is more difficult than I think. And I also think that that's maybe not doing the right thing, but I don't know. So with all that, as we've said during this time of coronavirus, that there are things that are much more important than football, and it seems almost trivial to talk about some of those things, but that is what the show is about. So that's what we will do this week. I'm joined by Steve Forbes. If you are a match-going Saints fan, if you're around the Southampton area and you attend matches, you will know Steve. He's one of the Matchday presenters, so he's down there oftentimes with Tom Deacon. They do the halftime show and all of that stuff. They do the pre-match thing. And so we'll walk through all of that with Steve and just get kind of his idea. We'll give him a little bit of a hard time about his interactions with some particular staff members, but mostly we're going to get to know Steve Forbes a little bit. You can follow him on Twitter, Instagram, and on Facebook at Forbesy Presents. He's also a broadcast journalist at Global, so you may hear him on the radio. And of course, he presents Matchdays at St. Mary's. So we'll talk to him about his career, about growing up, about supporting a football team that is not Saints, and what it's like to go work there. And we'll talk about a bunch of other stuff in between. But I hope you enjoy it. I hope you're staying well. And Project Restart is a go. Where we'll have football in about half a month's time. So we can all look forward to that, even if we can't watch it in person. But anyway, let's jump into this conversation with Steve Forbes. And once again, I hope that you are safe. Hope you're well. Thank you for taking the time to listen in. And we'll talk to you on the other side. We'd like to welcome to the Southampton Delivery Podcast, Steve Forbes. You can find him on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at Forbesy Presents. He's both a broadcast journalist at Global and a presenter at Saints FC. So, Steve, welcome to the show, and thanks for joining me.
Thank you very much, Matt. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah. Been chatting for a little bit. It looks like a nice day outside still for you. It's supposed to be a nice day for me. We'll see how it all works out. But I mean, just how are things in general with lockdown and kind of limited or no football, limited work and all of that stuff?
Yeah, like you said, summer is kicking in, it feels over here. So on the bright side is being able to have unrestricted exercise, inverted commas, and being able to kind of get out and about a bit more has been nice, and to enjoy the weather. Lockdown is easing a bit, so more things are going to be starting to open in a couple of weeks, in a couple of days. So I just can't wait to be able to get a pint in a pub, and have a haircut. Actually, they're the two things that I've probably missed the most from lockdown. Is my hair is now stupidly long in comparison to what it was, and I've not had a lovely fresh poured pint in about 10 to 12 weeks.
I don't have to worry about the haircuts. I haven't had to, and for more than half my life now, as my kids were pointing out. But my son is like, when can I get a haircut? 8th grade graduation. Sorry, we already took the pictures. You got to deal with the mop. At least it's got a nice wave to it, and that goes for you as well. And in terms of the pint, like I was able to like buy a lot of beer for my neighbor who, as a thank you for something, and then he went on a month of not drinking, so I have a lot of beer that I now need to get through quite quickly. I started last week, which was a bad call because I did it before I recorded the intro to the show, and it was pretty pathetic. So I didn't drink. It's too early in the morning to drink now, but anyway. So yeah. So I just want to like kind of talk to you about a couple of things that this week. We generally just start with like growing up. You live in around Southampton now, but did you grow up in that area, or did you move to the area relatively recently?
I moved to where I live at the moment in Winchester relatively recently, but you probably can't tell from my voice, but I actually was born in Scotland, in Glasgow. So a little bit all over the place. I was born and raised in a little place called Govan in Glasgow, and then moved to the south coast of England with my mum and my stepdad when I was about 6 years old. A place called Emsworth, which is so you go past Southampton, past Portsmouth, and it's towards the kind of Sussexy side of Hampshire. I lived there for about 20 years, but then in that period of time, going to uni, to Bristol, to London, and then I moved to Oxford, and then to Winchester. So a little bit all over the place in the south. Yeah,
well, I would say I wasn't going to guess it from your accent. You kind of lost it a little bit, huh?
Very much so. Yeah, I think at 6 years old, I still had obviously a very broad Glaswegian accent, but going to school at 6 and people are like, they've never heard this accent before. In 1995, and so, in a little town in the south of England, and so I think over time it just faded away.
Yeah, there is I have this. I just assume everybody has a similar accent if they're Southampton fans. You assume a lot of people are living in the area and grew up in the area. So one of the guys was on the phone with him one time, and it's just like he got on and I was like, whoa, what is that? Because he was also from Scotland. Just totally took me by surprise, but. Yeah,
for the first, anyway. I'd say like 10 years of my life, probably a little bit longer than that. I used to be able to switch between. Okay. So it would kind of fade out at school, and then I'd go home to my mum, and she still retained her Glaswegian accent for the entirety of her life. And when I'd go and see family in Scotland, and it would just come back. And then as soon as I'd be around them, this just thick Glaswegian accent would come back. So probably till I was about 11 or 12.
Now, nothing.
Well, I could still do it a little bit if I wanted to like put it on, but I'd have to actually do it. My everyday speaking voice sounds like this now.
Yeah. All right. Well, what about growing up? What were sports like? Were there a big part of your life growing up, or not really?
Yeah. I mean, I suppose it's a big part of most people's lives, and coming from Glasgow, that's a massive football city. I mean, you've got the iconic Old Firm derby, you've got Celtic and Rangers, and it was very split in my family. There's a big Rangers support, and then some of my family were Celtic fans, but my mum, she did not want me to get involved in any of that rivalry, because it's still like a really aggressive rivalry to this day. But back then it was kind of 70s, 80s, and there was a lot of religion involved. So you also had the Protestant side was Rangers, and the Catholics was Celtic, and my biological father, he's a Protestant and supported Rangers, and my mum's a Catholic, and my mum did not want me to get involved in any of that. So she kind of banned me from supporting Rangers or Celtic. As much as my real dad wanted me to follow him with Rangers, I wasn't really allowed. And so I ended up I grew up supporting Man United. Okay. At that time, in the early 90s, if you basically supported a club that wasn't your hometown, it was either Newcastle, Man United, or Nottingham Forest.
Yeah.
When I went to primary school, that was like the team that everyone supported, and it just happened to, or Liverpool, and it just happened to be Man United.
Yeah. Well, so you probably get along with Carl Anker then quite well. He's a Manchester United fan from London. And he's like, that's
what everyone says. Everyone just says all the United fans are from the south of England and just go and eat their prawn sandwiches in the terraces. Right. But I'm not an armchair fan. I've been up to Old Trafford a few times, and it's just I wasn't one to switch either. I felt like I'd made that decision. I wasn't allowed to support the kind of place that I was born and grew up in, and my cousins were Manchester United fans as well. My cousin Carrie Ann, the reason I supported them is because she had a Ryan Giggs shirt that she gave me when I was about 4 years old. And then I just love Ryan Giggs and supported Man United. But when I moved to England as well, and a lot of my friends did, as soon as, and this probably isn't great for a Southampton podcast, but when Portsmouth got promoted to the Premier League, I think I was in the early years of secondary school, and all of my friends that I grew up with just suddenly started supporting Pompey.
Yeah.
And I did not want to follow suit. I was like, no, you turncoats. You've supported Arsenal and Newcastle and Liverpool ever since I've known you. And now it's 2001 or 2, whenever they got promoted. Right. Now all of a sudden you're a Pompey fan. So I didn't want to follow suit. So I've stuck. But since working for Saints, I definitely feel like an adopted fan. Yeah. Like I'm an employee, and I wanted to do the job because it followed my kind of what I wanted to do in my career. But the club it's definitely sucked me in to like feeling like a bit of a saint, and I love the people that I work with and all the people around the club that I've met, and I just feel a little bit like an adopted Saint supporter now. Well, I mean, having talked to Carl Anker, the athletic writer for Saints in the past, he feels much the same way. He is also a Man United fan growing up, and but he's definitely fallen in love with Saints over the time. And I, as a guy from California, I've also fallen in love with the club. That's I've really, people are like, are you sure? Like, none of your family? I was like, I got nothing. Like, there's no connection. Just has been my club now for quite a while. But it doesn't work the same way over there, right? You tend, even with like NBA teams or NFL teams, you don't tend to support where you come from. Is that right? You kind of just pick a team that you like. A lot. Yeah, it's a lot. I think for me, where I live, yes. I live halfway between San Francisco and LA, so that I don't have a hometown team. A lot of people are Dodger fans, but it doesn't mean that you have to be. So my teams are, I'm a Houston Astros fan. So yes, I like cheating. I'm a Buccaneers fan, and that was well before Tom Brady joined the team. And then the Houston Rockets, and that's it. And then I picked those teams because I fell in love with certain players on the team. And, actually the Buccaneers, my dad was a Rams fan. When they moved from LA to St. Louis, when I was a kid, I watched him cry because he was being abandoned by his team. And the same guy that owns Arsenal owns them. And so I was like, I'm never going to let that team do that to me. So I picked the team on the opposite side of the country because they couldn't get any further away. Like, that was my reasoning behind picking the Buccaneers at that point. And it's nice though, because I feel like there's a bit of a stigma in the UK that you probably don't get over there, which is you should support where you come from. Yeah. But people move, obviously. You can move from one end of the country to another, and then I like the fact that you can just pick a team because you like them for whatever reason, and you can support that team. You can still be a genuine fan or supporter, even if you're not from there. Yeah. And the nice thing about it is, like, I'm even if I am a Dodger fan, like, there's no chance we're going to all those. So like when the Astros come to town and they only come, three times a year, like, I can go to all 3 games, and then, I get to see my team basically as much as I can. I like that aspect of it. Now that they switch leagues, and so they're out here a lot more often, but usually we go to Oakland because it's just way cheaper. You can get like tickets for $11 instead of like, $45 in LA. So that's where I went to see my first baseball game, was the Oakland A's. Oh yeah. And hated every minute of it. I can't do it. The best part was getting the food. The food was great, and the beer was good, but I think there was like one hit in the entire 3.5 hours that I was present at that stadium. And I nearly fell asleep, like, on multiple occasions. It's when was that? How long ago was that? That was in the summer of 2016. So okay. It was about September time, 2016 that I was over there. Well, hopefully the weather was nice at least. So you can get pretty. It was beautiful. Yeah.
It's better.
I had a nice day out with my friends, but the actual the sporting element, I was just not into.
Well, I can't be mad at you. As the guy who grew up playing baseball, my kids don't like it, so it is what it is. So I'm glad we've established that you're not a Portsmouth fan. That's good. It would be tough to hide, I think, going into this. But I guess for you, did you play football growing up, or was it just kind of watching?
Yeah, recreationally, I'd say. I've always. I don't think I'm not from an athletic family, and I was never athletic or like athletically built as a kid. And I always loved football. There's probably a period maybe between 11 and 13 where I kind of fell out of love with it and was into like skateboard. It's that kind of time when like Linkin Park and Limp Bizkit were out, and I just got into like that kind of skateboarder vibe. But I've always loved football. But yeah, growing up, it was sometimes playing with the school teams, but even in secondary school, I don't know what it's like over there. It's probably athletics plays a big part. It wasn't so much at the school I went to, and the captain of the football team just tended to pick his friends to play, so you didn't really get picked that often, and so yeah, I didn't play a huge amount other than recreationally with my pals growing up. I always think that my football brain is way better than my body, so I can kind of see things and want to do them, but my legs and feet just can't perform those actions.
Yeah, I can relate. So I get it. The second thing, obviously your job now is journalism and broadcasting. And I guess, when did that start? Like where does the interest for that come from for you?
I think I was a little bit of a late bloomer when it came into kind of my career choice now. So I'm 30 now, and I've only been doing this professionally for about 3 and a bit years. So when I left college, I got a job selling mobile phones, and because my friend worked in a shop and it was good money at the time, and I did that for a few years, and then I decided, right, I want to continue with my education, and went to university. And I went to a university in Bristol in the southwest of England, and I did English language and linguistics because, funnily enough, I wanted to be a teacher. Right. And I thought I'll get into teaching like that. I was always really good at English throughout school and throughout my education. And I thought I'll go and study that, and I'll get a degree in English. And I went and did it in Bristol, and realised that I was not up to the standard of degree level for English. And I'm very much a practical person, and if I didn't see a use of something, I couldn't put my mind to it. So I did English language and linguistics, and the language side was kind of fine. But when I looked at linguistics and building up phonemes of words and stuff and trying to learn them in different languages, I thought, when am I ever going to put this into practice in my day-to-day life? Yeah. I kind of just fell out of love with it. And I think it was my kind of first year being away from home and having that freedom at 19 and just going out all the time and not focusing on my studies. And yeah, I kind of flunked that entire year. So I left uni after 1 year. And I went back to work, selling phones again, because I knew people that still were in the industry, and they just gave me a job back, and I started doing that. And I did that for another year, and then I realized, what am I doing? I'm just going to stay in this forever. I need to do something that I'm passionate about. And so I really thought, right, I'm not academically good enough to stick this English thing through, and maybe do I want to teach? And also then I thought to myself, do I want to be around children all the time? Probably not. So I just thought, what do I really enjoy doing? And one of the things I really enjoyed doing was entertaining people. And I thought, why don't I do something where I can chat and I can entertain and I can have a good time. I enjoy having conversations. So there was an opening still at a university in London, the University of West London, that I went to, and it was for TV and radio broadcasting. And I went through clearing, which in the UK basically means that you have waited too long to apply. So if there's no space, there's no space, you're out of luck. But if there are people who've dropped out, or they haven't filled the course, you can then join late on. So I only decided to go back to uni maybe in the kind of the May, June time of 2011. and then got in probably in the August and then started in September. So it was a really quick turnaround to go back to uni. And I just loved what I did. So a lot of people would refer to it as a Mickey Mouse course, where there's not really a huge amount of reading and studying and essays to write. It was more vocational.
Okay.
But I really loved it. I loved getting into the studio and being on the mic and presenting a show and the kind of production element of putting it all together. And yeah, so I kind of stuck at it. And my mum did say to me at the time, she was like, we wasted all that money sending you to uni to Bristol for a year that you've just, excuse my French, peed up a wall. You've just completely just wasted 10 grand of going to uni. You need to stick at it. If you're going to do it again this time, you're paying for it. That was the second one. We're not covering you this time. You're paying for it. And you got to stick to it. So when I went, I was a little bit older. I was 22 and I was like, right, I'm really going to do this. So I studied hard and I paid attention to all the lessons. And I think because I really related to the subject and loved it, I did so well. So when I graduated, I got a first class degree, which I don't really know means much now in for TV and radio broadcast, and probably don't even need one. But I really committed myself to getting into it. And from there on out, I was just like, this is what I'm going to do. And I have suffered setbacks and I didn't manage to get into it straight away. But really since that 2011 period onwards is when I really wanted to push for a career in this industry.
Yeah, it always surprises me because in the United States, it's not that big of an industry. Like I didn't go to school with anybody who was going into studying broadcasting like that. And it was more like, either you were a nurse, you worked in the forest where I went, or you were an engineer. And then like I was a history major and they were like, what are you doing here? Like you could have gone anywhere. I was like, well, they let me in. That's why I'm here. They made that mistake. And so I'm going to do it. So it always surprised me because it seems like a lot of people in the UK are into maybe it's just because of how prevalent sports are and but I don't know, because it's not even what you do is all sports. It's news and everything else. And I don't know. Does that make any sense?
Yeah, I mean, but it wasn't pushed to me at a young age. When I was in school and I was deciding what I'd then kind of take at GCSE in secondary school and then in college, it was all very academical. Like I love doing drama and stuff, and we have food technology, which is basically like cooking. In secondary school, and I was really good at them and loved them, but I just didn't see a future in those. Like, why would I get a GCSE in drama? Like, you don't need one. If you're good at acting, you're good at acting. No, it doesn't. You're not going to need a qualification. And so my kind of parents would always say, right, pick something that there's actually a future in. That if you wanted to go, they wouldn't have ever held me back in whatever decision I wanted to make with my career choice. But I think they were so worried that I would pick something that was of no value, and I had something to fall back on. So when I was at GCSE, I picked history and geography and English and obviously the maths and the science that we have to do here. And in college, I did law and psychology and English. And those I picked really academic subjects. And looking back on it, I was a very average student. I think I got like 1A, 5 Bs and 3 Cs at GCSE, and I got like a BDD at college. So really, really average, nothing special. But I think maybe if I'd gone with something at an early age that I really enjoyed, it may have been different, but then I might not have been here now. So you make these choices and you stick with them and you live with them.
Yeah. And I think for a lot of people going in that early, like you have very little idea of what exactly you're hoping to get.
Yeah. You don't know what you want to do at 16.
Yeah.
Who knows what I want to do at 16? And then when I've gone through so many different career choices. Like when I was in school, I was like, right, I want to be a chef. So I'm really good at food tech. I'm going to be a chef. And then I realized, nah, I'm 16. I'm not that good at cooking. I'm not going to be a chef. And then I was like, I was in the RAF cadets as a kid as well. So I was like, I'm going to go into the Air Force. And then I realized that I'm too short and have crap vision, so I can't be a pilot. So all of these kind of dreams, they fall by the wayside as you get older. And like I said, it was 22 years old, 21, 22. And then I decided, right, this is what I want to do.
Yeah. And you made a home for yourself doing it now. And
exactly.
So, yeah. So I guess walk me through kind of getting to Global and you and John Weeks, who also works for Saints and Global. You guys know each other. John's been on the show before. Do you guys do the exact same job at Global, or very similar, or no?
We do the exact same job. We just cover different areas of the South. So John primarily takes the heart and capital brands in fact, mainly heart, for the Thames Valley, which is Oxfordshire, Hampshire, Buckinghamshire, Berkshire, and the South Coast, which is Hampshire and Dorset and places like that. Whereas I cover Sussex and Surrey and Kent as my main patches. That's just where we've been assigned to. We flutter in sometimes if cover's needed, but as a job, we do the exact same thing.
Okay. Yeah. All right. And so that involves, early mornings, late nights. What's your schedule like when you show up?
It varies. When I joined, so I only joined Global a year ago, just under a year ago, in July 2019. And when I first started, I was on the late shift. So that was doing 2 p.m. till 7, covering the drive time show for news. And then a space opened up on breakfast. And I just thought, that's where you want to be. Like UK radio, you want to be on the breakfast slot. The sacrifices you have to make, I have to be in bed at 8 p.m. and then you have to be up at 4 in the morning. But I think it's not a big sacrifice when you finish it at 1 and you've got the rest of your day to yourself. And then you're also doing the flagship hours that the majority of your listeners are tuning into.
Right. Yeah. I'm a big morning person. As you can, we discussed that before we started.
Yeah, very early.
Yeah.
So I'm with Saturday, I would not be getting up at 5.
That's all right. You just do it. I mean, half the time the games kick off at 4. That's when I hate when we play the Europa League teams, because that means Saturday and Sunday I'm up that early because they got to kick off at 12 or 2 or whatever time it is.
Of course, yeah.
Anyway, so let's talk a little bit about coming to Saints, because you've been doing that job for a little longer than you've been at Global. But I mean, where did the idea to come work for a football club? How did that come to you, and why, or what prompted you to say, like, I enjoy being behind a microphone, now let me do it in front of thousands of people every match day? Well,
I think really when I kind of got into broadcasting and in Britain, I feel there's a bit of like age restrictions with particular types of media you get into. So if you want to go into kind of music radio, and when I was in uni, I wanted to go and be a presenter at, say, like Radio 1 or at Capital or something like that. But they kind of won't really look at you if you're past a certain age, because you obviously have to fit into the demographic of their audience as well. So Capital has a really young audience. If you want to be a presenter there, you tend to be quite a young person too. And I got knocked back so much when I left uni. So I put all my demos together, and I worked at a community station called Westside in West London. And I did the breakfast show for them when I was at uni, and then left after graduating. But I had all this material and I was sending it out and getting kind of nothing back, not really getting any jobs in the industry. And I kind of thought, right, if I'm not going to get on the radio as a presenter for a music brand, what else do I like? And like I said, I've always been into football. And thought, right, maybe I can go down the sports broadcasting route and be able to present. And at the end of the day, I want to get paid to watch football. That's great. Something you would do as a pastime anyway, you can do as a job. So I was like, I'll kind of focus on that as well. But as I said, I did a couple of presenting jobs here and there on some local stations, but nothing to call a career. I was still working after I graduated uni. I was still working in the phone shop, went back to doing that for a few years. And it was actually until that summer of 16 when I went out to America. So I went out to America and I worked for a few months at a camp in America, in Connecticut, and I taught kids radio studies there. It was very loosely radio studies. There was a back room to the hall that had a couple of computers in it and a little mini mixer. And it was like, there you go, there's kids for an hour, teach them how to do radio. So you try and put a little program, etc. But before I'd gone, I'd lined myself up a job. I'd had an interview, and I was pretty confident I'd get this job at a DAB, a digital station in London, to be a presenter / producer for them. Now, when I got back, I had my interview, and I got offered the job, and I was silly because I was young and I didn't realize the industry that when you start out in media, you get paid a very low salary. So coming from sales, where I earned a decent salary, I was thinking, well, I'm not going to take too much of a cut. So I kind of screwed myself out of a job by asking for too much, and I rubbed the company up the wrong way, and so I lost what I thought was going to be my into broadcasting. I thought, and it was actually, funny enough, going to be like a Saturday sports show. That would have been what I would have been presenting for this station. So I didn't do the right thing, and I lost that opportunity. And another few months went by, and I thought, how can I actually get through a door here? And it tends to be journalism. Journalism is the thing that will open doors into the sports industry, because you can be a correspondent, a pitch side reporter, an anchor for a particular channel or on air. And so in that January of 2017, after coming back from America, I just had a lump of money that I'd saved up that I was going to buy a house with, and I thought, I'm going to use this in my future. So I just used half of it to pay for an NCTJ course, which is a journalism qualification at a private school, kind of. And then the other half to kind of live off for 6 months, because it was full time, Monday to Friday, 9 to 5, but you couldn't work. So I went and did this course for 6 months and graduated. And then I had this NCTJ, and then people started to take you seriously. So I started getting freelance jobs at BBC in Oxford, and for a station which doesn't exist anymore in Brighton called Juice, and doing a couple of shifts here and there. But funnily enough, before I got the job at Saints, I was working at a call center doing over-the-phone surveys. So you have to cold call is the most depressing thing in the world, man. You've got to cold call people, have a minute of your time, and can ask you all these questions, and no one wants to talk to you.
Right.
So I had to do that for a little bit. But over that summer,
I know how you feel.
Have you done that job yourself?
No, just about the show, doing this show.
What, cold calling? Yeah, trying to get people on. Similar thing, right? But these people hate your guts. Anyway, and especially if you have targets to hit, you're monitored on how many calls you make a day. It's the most soul-destroying thing for minimum wage. Anyway, it was either that or go in the dole after I'd finished my course. So I thought, that's better than nothing. So anyway, I was doing this that summer in 2017, and then I just saw on a media jobs website that Southampton were looking for a stadium presenter. And I was like, I could do that, I reckon. Maybe. What have I got to lose, So I just applied. I just thought, I'm just going to stick my CV in, say I've done it. And I had done a little bit of live hosting. So when I was at uni, I did there's like an end of year, the media department does like an end of year show. And so I co-hosted that in my final year. And I've done a bit of live presenting for local festivals around the kind of West London area that were associated with my community station that I worked with at the time. So I had a little bit of experience, but I thought, there is no way I'm even going to get an interview, but I'm just going to shove my CV in the inbox anyway and see what happens. Lo and behold, a couple of weeks later, do you want to come in for an interview? But, and this is what I think is a little bit fate, is it went to my junk, and I did not see this email to invite me in for an interview till the day of the interview.
Oh no.
And it was a pick your own time slot. So the email came through, and you clicked on the link, and it was like, you've been invited, here's the time slots available, pick it. And it was too late to pick a time slot. So I panicked, and I was like, how have I messed this up?
Yeah.
It's gone to my junk inbox. It looks like I don't care. I've applied for this job and just not responded. So I quickly went onto LinkedIn, and I found who's my boss, Tom Call, is the head of audiovisual at Saints. And I found him on LinkedIn. He was the person who sent me the email. But to message him, I needed premium. So I was like, whatever, I'm paying for LinkedIn premium for the month. And so I sent him a message, and he got back to me, and he was really understanding and was like, yeah, no problem. We'll schedule it for tomorrow, another day, whenever it was. And I went down to Staplewood, to the training campus, for my first interview. And I was so excited because I was just thinking, this is a Premier League club. Oh my God, I've actually got an interview at a Premier League club. This is insane. So I went to my interview at Staplewood, and I met with JK. I don't think actually works for the club anymore, and Tom as well. And had this, it was quite a nice interview. Felt like I got on really well, good rapport. Actually, as I was waiting in the lobby, I was waiting in the lobby, and they showed me around after the interview. They're like, "George, you want to see a little bit of the training campus?" I was like, "Yeah, who's not going to say yes?" So I got to see a little bit of the changing rooms and stuff. And I was standing there talking to him, and I was kind of leaning against the door. And the door just opened, and I kind of slightly jerked and fell back, and I turned around, and it was Charlie Austin, and he was just like, "Right, mate." But I didn't realize how massive he was.
Yeah.
You watch footballers on the telly, and I'm a short guy anyway, but you watch footballers on the telly and you think, they're just kind of like average height, maybe like 6 foot. And he was like a giant turning around, but it was a really good interview. And then I got invited back for a second interview. Again, I couldn't believe it.
Yeah.
And I said to my mum at the time, I was like, I don't really care if I get the job because I'm just so chuffed to have even been given an opportunity to be in the running. And they whittled it down to 2 people, myself and this other chap who I didn't meet actually. And I had to go to St. Mary's, and it was a kind of as live run through. So I was in one of the boxes there and sitting down with Tom, and he was like, cool, go through this running order and this script, make little notes here and there. And then what we'll do is we'll go out with a camera into the stands, and you'll deliver a couple of links to camera, and then we'll do kind of a mock interview, and then that's it. We'll record it and we'll go through it, and we'll get back to you. So I did that, thought I did quite well. And then I went back to my call centre job in London, in Old Street. And a couple of weeks later, I was sat there, literally just the end of my shift, and just hung up my headset. And then my phone goes, and it's Tom Call on the phone. And my heart kind of sank, because I always just feel like inherently that call is always just going to be, hi, thanks very much for coming in, but unfortunately we've decided to take someone else at this point. And that's what I thought was going to happen. So anyway, I picked up the phone. Hey, Tom, how's it going? And he started the conversation like that. It was like, and he's quite a chilled guy anyway, but it was like, hi, Steve. Yeah. Thank you. Thanks so much for coming in. Yeah, it was really good to have you. And all I just presumed was we've decided to go with someone else for the job. And he just went, yeah, so thanks very much for coming in. And we'd like to offer you the position. And I just was like, oh my God, this is absolutely amazing. Thank you so, so much. And just shouted in the middle of this call center. Yeah. I was so happy. And I just phoned up my mum straight away, and I was super excited. Couldn't wait to start. And so it was a few months before I actually went to a game. I think I got given the job or offered the job and took the job in the September, start of October time, and then I started in November 2017.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Did you quit the call center immediately?
Yeah. It was basically, it was after that I was like, I don't need this anymore. See you later, guys. And to be fair, I'd lined up another job anyway that I was moving to. So the ball had started to roll a little bit more, which was exciting. It was the start of really my journey into broadcasting.
That's awesome, because I'm like you. It's if somebody calls me, they're just going to deliver the bad news and get off the phone. And I kind of have that. I presume the negative all the time. So when somebody's surprised, I'd rather be surprised than disappointed.
That's it. Yeah, you got to prepare for the worst, because then it's not going to feel like such a stab in the heart if you get it, and anything other than that's a bonus.
Yeah, I think that my father-in-law instilled that in me, and then also under promise and over deliver. So don't promise too much, because you won't live up to it. Anyway, I was going to say, when you quit the call center, did you go like, have you seen Half Baked? Have you seen that? That might be just an American thing.
I've heard of it. I don't think I've actually seen it. Is the one with like Dave Chappelle?
You just got to look up the scene when he quits the record store, and then let me know if that's how you quit.
Okay, we'll do.
We won't talk about it on here because it's just anyway.
I think I was quite polite. I just called up my duty manager and was like, "Sorry, I'm quitting." And he was like, "Is there nothing we can? Is that it? Nothing we can do? If you want any other shifts, let me know." I was like, "Nah, I'm never coming back. I really appreciate the opportunity, but bye."
Yeah, I'd like to keep my soul where it is now.
Yes.
So, I mean, once you get the job, what's a day on the job like doing? Because I mean, you work with people like Kenzie, Michael Kern, right? Tom Deacon, John Weeks. You guys all kind of are on the same, or at least under the same umbrella of Matchday presenting. But what does your job entail? What's your routine like on Matchday?
It has differed slightly over the years that I've been there. When I first joined, it was Kenzie doing the job, and I co-presented with her pitch side for I think 2 games before she moved primarily to the social media side of stuff. And I think that's why she was moving to the more on-screen role, and I think that's why they got another pitch side presenter in. So I did it on my own after that. So really, I think from the January 2018 till the end of that season, it was just me, and it was really daunting. And it took a lot of getting used to on that day, but it was very much kind of come in there for a few hours before. You get given a loose script with the segments that you're going to present in, and then it was very much an hour before kickoff. You go live in front of the fans or what fans are there at the time. Build up to the match day or to the kickoff. Although there's a bit of a gap, there used to be more of a gap for when the players were training. You wouldn't talk through when they were on field. And that was it. I then stand in the tunnel, watch the first half, go out for half time. 9 times out of 10 it was the halftime relay, and maybe a couple of other links to promote whatever we were doing at the time, and then back in and maybe a little bit of feedback after, and that was really the job. But since then, since that kind of 2017-18 season, more people have been brought in. They've expanded the Matchday program so much more. So in that summer, that's when Tom Deacon was hired. And I tell you what, when he was hired, I thought, oh, they're getting rid of me. That pessimistic flow from not thinking I'd get the job to this moment, it still continued. And they said, oh, we've got a guy, Tom, he's going to be coming and we're going to test you out. He's going to be coming for the preseason game. It was Celta Vigo, actually, for the preseason game at St. Mary's that Tom came along to. And it was very much like, cool, we're just going to see what your vibe's like and how you're doing. And all in my head, I was just like, they're just going to replace me. Yeah. Clearly, I've been rubbish for 6 months. And they're just going to get this comedian in who's been on Radio 1, who's been on Capital, et cetera, to replace me. But the saving grace is that Tom and I got on so well. Like from the day we kind of met, we just had such a good rapport. And from then it's really flourished. So Tom and I have kind of just tried to make that pitch side thing our own, and deliver that as best we can with as much energy. I think the whole kind of motive now was to really get the place ramped up for kickoff. So it's rocking before the players come out. And like I said, a few more people were taken on. They developed the fan zone for the last season, for the 19-20 season, which is when Michael joined. Tom moved to a kind of a different role. I wasn't in the PA room so much. So Terry, who's my kind of line manager, she came on board, and it just became a bit more of a bigger production. We did more. We had a bit more games and stuff for the fans, more giveaways, etc. And I think we tried to make it like a real show that people would actually want to come into the stadium earlier than they normally would to watch it.
Okay. Yeah. It seems like a big change and a shift from just people showing up as kickoff starting, pounding the beer and sitting down and ready to watch the game versus coming in, kind of getting engaged and getting excited about the stuff. And a lot of, there'd been some criticism online of what Saints were doing pregame in terms of the light show and the fire and all that stuff. And did that kind of affect you at all? Were you aware of that, or did you just kind of, we're doing this job, we're trying to get the place going, and this is what we're doing?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, yeah, you hear murmurings, and there's obviously like fan groups that will speak directly with people at the club and stuff. But I don't have any decision in any of that stuff. If there's going to be fire, there's going to be fire. If there's going to be lights, there's going to be lights. Like that's not down to me. Yeah. I think everywhere that comes from is a good place. Everything that the club is trying to do, it's trying to do for good reasons, and to make it not only an amazing place to go and watch sport, because football is now no longer just a sport that you watch. It's entertainment. Yeah. You want to be entertained. Prices have gone up so much in the last 10, 20 years that paying 30, 40 pounds sometimes to go and watch a football game, you don't just want to go for 90 minutes. You want to be entertained for longer than that. You need value for money. And I feel that everything the club has put in place in the last 18 months has been incredible. And I think there's probably only scope to do more as well, hopefully, when fans do come back. But I love all that stuff. I think the light shows are incredible. Sometimes they've gone wrong. Don't get me wrong. I think there was one time a little bit of a blackout, and I think a couple of times maybe the fire shooters haven't shot at the right time. But it looks great. I think it really adds to the atmosphere, and long may it continue, in my opinion. Yeah.
Well, and I will just add, like, if things would have been going better on the pitch, nobody would have said any of it. They would have said, this is a great touch. And so there is that. And sometimes you, or not you specifically, but kind of the front facing, crowd facing portion of the entertainment is going to get the abuse because people are angry and they got to be angry at something, and
yeah, we feel it. I mean, at the end of the day, our job might be in the kind of short-sightedness of us as professionals doing it, is us presenting. So we're doing our job as being a presenter, but really what we're doing is we are trying to get that atmosphere in that stadium as best as we can, and that's by getting people in a great mood, by doing giveaways and getting them up on their feet and dancing and shouting stuff out, etc. And the halftime relay, get people involved and cheering the kids on as they run around. So the atmosphere is huge. I mean, sometimes, and I've been there over the last couple of years when the team hasn't been performing so well, and it is a bit dead, and I think it stops us as presenters performing as well to the levels where when the place is rocking, you feel it as well. And I personally think when Tom and I have been pitchside and the place is just jumping because we're 2-0 up at half time and everyone's in a great mood, it allows us a bit more freedom and a bit more flexibility to have fun with the script and kind of give a bit more of our own personalities as well.
Yeah. I guess for you, what's the most stressful part of the job? Is it having to go out there when at halftime when we're 2-0 down, or what's that look like for you?
There's a lot of stresses at the job. It just depends how much you let them affect you. Don't get me wrong, standing in front of 30,000 people is daunting because a slip of the tongue in front of that many people, again, I don't know how many are actually listening. A lot of people might just be off getting a pie and a pint. I don't know. But you have to be on the ball. So it's quite stressful to know that there's a camera pointed at you and there are however many tens of thousands of people in the stadium listening and watching. You've got to be good.
Yeah.
So that's a pressure in itself. We then have a headset. So sometimes stuff will be relayed in our ears. So we might be running short on a link, or we might have a little bit too much time. So it's like, right, we need to cut here. Come on, you've got 10 seconds to close it out. But we've still got half a segment to do.
Yeah.
Because maybe we've overrun in certain areas, or it's actually we've got way more time than we thought. So you need to long this out for another 2 minutes. And we're like, we've got 3 lines to read. How are we going to do this for 2 minutes?
Yeah.
So you have to think on your feet, and that can be really stressful as well. But I mean, I've got to say the team is fantastic. Everyone is so supportive. There's never really been any criticism. There has been constructive feedback, and I think I'm probably one of the most critical people on myself anyway. Yeah. There's been times when I think I've done a really pants job, and my boss has said, "Oh, you were really good today," and I've gone, "Nah, I didn't think so because I did this, this, and this." And I'm like, that wasn't really a big deal. I didn't even notice it. But so I'm super self-critical with what I do. So the stress levels are only there if you let it get to you. I think there are other jobs on this planet that if you are a paramedic, or if you are a surgeon, or if you do a job that involves you trying to save someone's life, or that where there's really that stress, me standing in front of a crowd saying a few words and giving away a signed T-shirt isn't stressful.
Yeah, absolutely. You just got to put it in context.
Yeah.
But I totally understand the self-critical part of that. There are times when I record the show and I just like hang my head in shame after we end the Skype call. But then you get people that go, that was great. And sometimes I do an episode where I'm like, this was so much fun, and people are like, what were you doing this week? And it's just like, look, I don't even know what's good, but we're doing
that's how you learn.
Yeah,
isn't it? Like Tom and I have had days where we've both looked at each other and we've gone, that was rubbish. We weren't very good there, and we have tried to improve as well. So before, the way it kind of works, which I'm sure John would have probably touched on and Tom probably has when he's been on the podcast, is we get in a few hours before and we will run through everything. So we'll sit in the boardroom and we'll be given our script and our running order and what's going to be happening during the match show. But then Tom and I will go off separately with a highlighter and a pen, and we'll go through it and we'll mark off where we're gonna come in and where we're gonna go out, and who says what bit, and change certain things, because someone else's style of writing your loose script is not how you would present it. So Tom and I have really tried to, over the last season, in the last year, to put a lot of effort into having it as slick as possible. So when we are pitch side, there's not and there's not R's, and there's not looking at the paper. It is really just well rehearsed and slick. We have somehow got into a routine of saying indeed when we pass to each other, which we tried to cut out. And then as soon as I raised it to Tom, I said, because I had a bit of footage recorded for me for a show reel and transferred over. And I watched it and it was like, yeah, so today we've got this, blah, 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 blah. And then Tom would go, indeed, Steve. So yeah, and this is also coming up. We're going to be giving away a signed shirt. Indeed, Tom. And at halftime, we're having the relay. Indeed. Much more to come. And I said, Tom, we say indeed about 5 times in this link. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
And so when I raised it with him, and I was like, we need to stop saying indeed so much. And it became apparent. And then we just said it even more. And then we'd say it every single transition.
Yeah.
So we are still trying to improve ourselves as well, but by no means are we perfect.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, I mean, going forward now, obviously the Premier League is coming back. The guys are back to full training. And there are still a lot of precautions that have to take place, but the plan is to continue with matches now behind closed doors, kind of from the middle of June on. So what, I mean, I don't know what you're allowed to share or anything, but what are the kind of the plans for you and your job and your team to kind of as matches go forward from here?
Yeah, I mean, I don't really know what I'm allowed to share either, but let's just kind of go with it. I'm kind of in the dark, I have to admit, and I'm sure as the next couple of days unfold or the week, I'll find out a bit more of what the plan is from here on out. Having spoke with my boss throughout lockdown, they are very much under the impression that they have to. Well, it's not under the impression, they have to wait for the Premier League to decide what's going to happen. So they are just as reactive as I would be as to find out what's going on with my job, and I work in news and in the media as well as at Southampton. So my boss said, you'll probably find out before we do, because you'll see a statement come through, or from what the Premier League have said on the news channels before the club will announce anything. So I think it's really positive that the contact training was brought back, and there is now a provisional start date for the Premier League being on the 17th of June. So that is a big positive step for going back to work and having games played.
Yeah. Because
there's no fans, I mean, essentially it makes my role redundant because I'm a pitchside presenter, and if there's no one in the stadium to present to pitchside, then it doesn't really allow me much scope for work at St Mary's. However, one thing that was in the pipe work before the lockdown was a pilot that we were going to shoot for the Norwich game that was called off, the away game.
Okay.
And it was going to. Have you seen Team Sheet Live? So that's what we broadcast on Facebook and Instagram that Kenzie does. And I believe the theme was going to be expanding on that. So it was going to be a pilot for a show that fans can engage with for away games. So they would tune in on Facebook and YouTube, and we would live stream an hour before the game, a build up. Again, when the team sheets come out, we'd have that. We'd go into who was picked, and we'd have a bit more of a kind of analysis of the team and the match. We'd watch the game, etc., and then we'd have again about 40 minutes to an hour after where we could get comments from fans that were coming through on social media, what they think, and just also provide that engagement that you would get on a match day being at St Mary's, but the fact that you can't be there and it's a away game. So that was something that did get canned because of the lockdown. We never got a chance to see it through.
Okay.
That might be something that does come to fruition as just a show for games that when the Premier League comes back.
Yeah.
That may be something that doesn't have a pilot phase anymore. Maybe they just run with that. Yeah. But again, it's something that was going to happen. And if I was going to kind of put my neck on the line and say, what would I like to do to have fan engagement for these games that are going to be behind closed doors and only televised, it probably would be something like that.
Okay. All right. Well,
but we'll have to wait and see. I'll keep you updated. As soon as I find out, I'll send you a message.
Yeah. I look forward to it. I'm very familiar with the online stuff, except for those early kickoffs. I'm not getting up at 3 a.m. to listen to that. That is usually phone goes off. I look at the team sheet, go like again, and then like put it down. But at least that was only when we were playing with 5 defenders at a time, and I was like, this is going to be rough. But anyway, a couple more things, and then I'll let you go. My house is starting to fill up with people. I forgot about it. Anyway, so your part of your job is the halftime thing. We had a question from one of the patrons of the show. Patrons get priority for having their questions answered on the show each and every week. And Luke Millar just kind of asks about like, what's your favorite halftime game to present?
Oh God, we've not had loads and loads to choose from, I would say. And like I said, for that first year and a bit, it was basically the halftime relay, which everyone loves. And sometimes when we've tried to replace it with something else, it hasn't had the same feedback. So we tried to replace it with a penalty shootout. It was a Virgin Media sponsored one. Didn't really get the same reception, so they brought the halftime relay back.
Yeah.
But we still will do different things. And what I've loved in the last couple of months before the season was cancelled was we did Tom and I would do dizzy penalties.
Yeah.
So we put a blindfold on someone, spin them round, take it off, and then they have to shoot. And that has been a lot of fun doing that too. But you can't go wrong with a halftime relay. Everyone at St Mary's just seems to love it. It seems like it's just part of the club now. That's what people expect at halftime. And if it's not broke, don't fix it, right?
Right. A couple other questions. Your team, okay? Like, if I asked you to describe these people just in one word, or your relationship with them in one word, I guess, how would you say it? So, Tom Deacon, how would you describe your relationship with him, working relationship in one word?
Brother.
Okay. John Weeks.
Confidant.
Kenzie.
Chum.
Sammy.
Annoying.
What's the deal with you and Sammy? What's going on?
He just rips me like every game. I don't know where it came from. In fact, I do know where it came from. Kenzie moved on from pitch side, and he doesn't get to see her as much anymore. So for the first few weeks that I had taken over the job, he just tended to go, where's Kenzie? And obviously that Sammy doesn't talk, so it's just everything is body language. It's just like, where's Kenzie? Just doing like a hand motion with his hair, and then going like shooing me away, taking the mic and the clipboard off, and then just going, get out of here. Yeah. And it just seems to be a running thing. So every single game that I somehow come across Sammy in some form, it's basically, you're not very good, give me the mic and just leave.
Could you beat him in the halftime relay?
Oh, 100%. Oh, yeah. 100%. In that suit, I don't know how anyone can beat him in that suit. That thing is hard, like to move and see in. I'd love to do the halftime relay. Yeah, I'd love it if they did like a staff one at some point. I'd really love to give it a go.
If they do it, I want them to do it when the stadium's full. None of this empty stadium stuff. It's not the same.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, there's got to be the pressure.
Yeah. Last thing, you've been cooking a lot. You cooked before the lockdown. Your IG or your Instagram kind of, you enjoy cooking. You've been carrying Tom a little bit. I'll be honest. But
carrying Tom.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll probably say I'm a better cook than Tom. Don't tell him that. But
that's what I mean. You were cooking before Tom. I think initially, I don't know. Tom makes me laugh no matter what he's doing. So it is what it is. But I've enjoyed what you guys have been putting out there over the past couple of weeks. But if you had to, somebody's coming to you and they're saying, look, want to date this person, first date, I'm going to cook for him because we can't go out, obviously. What would you advise them to cook for this person? Yeah,
well, obviously, as you said, like Tom and I are doing like a weekly Instagram live cook along with Steve and Tom, where one of us will decide on a menu or a dish to cook and give the other person instructions. All we get beforehand is the ingredients. That's all you get. Is just, you need this, and we'll show you through it. And obviously you can join along by watching on Instagram Live. You do mention Tom just makes you laugh at everything, and I don't understand that. I know he's a stand-up comedian, but that's the hardest thing of working with Tom, is he will just make you laugh with just saying a sentence. That's the hardest thing. But if I had to pick one dish to really impress someone, say it was a date.
Yeah.
Oh. It's tough because there's things you can do that are so simple. So the first week when we did a carbonara, now that is a dish that you can make excellent. You can also really mess it up. Tom put a whole packet of Parmesan into his egg mixture. For me, ruined it. Yeah. But that's something that if you do it so well, you'll remember it. You go, oh my God, that was the best carbonara I've ever eaten in my life. But then, I don't know, there's been other things, a mean steak and like triple cooked chips with some garlic broccoli on the side or something. That's mint as well. I've cooked a shredded duck lasagna once, which went down very well. Yeah. But yeah, with the stuff that I would say, you can, if you're on a date, if someone was coming around your house and you don't want to be in the kitchen for hours and ignoring them, and you want to bash up a really nice meal and impress, I'd say a good, authentic, from scratch carbonara can't go wrong.
All right. And people can go back in the Instagram Live and find that, I'm sure.
Yeah, they're they're IGTV. So if you went to my Instagram, it's one of the recent posts. You'll be able to click on it and watch the video back. Yeah,
so you'll walk them through it.
I will. I was doing a little bit of lockdown cooking. It was something that I just thought, well, I like to cook a lot. I don't consider myself a talented chef. I consider myself a slightly better than average home cook. But during lockdown, I was like, I'm going to start Instagramming a couple of meals that I'm making and the steps to making them if you want to decide at home that you want to follow on and cook them too. And then I had a chat with Tom, and he, when him and I would FaceTime just to have catch-ups, he would be in his home cooking and we'd have a little chat about food. And then we just had that idea. And the last few episodes, we've only done 2. They've been really fun. We've enjoyed them. And I just hope anyone kind of tuning in has too. So they will be continuing for the foreseeable, I think.
Well, yeah, I'm enjoying them, even though I'm not cooking along with you guys because it's 9 a.m. here. But I don't need a burger.
Maybe we'll do a
early.
Breakfast edition.
Yeah, I know it's I know I'm American, but we don't eat burgers all the time. Like it's not how it works. But I just want to say thanks for doing this, Steve. It's been just a pleasure to chat with you and have some fun and focus on things that aren't coronavirus and everything else. And it's been great to chat with you. So I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me on. It's been really nice to kind of talk about what I do and give people an insight into what it's like behind the scenes. And I'm just really hoping that football does come back with fans in some capacity when it is safe to do so in the near future. Yeah,
I'm looking forward to it. I am excited. I'm a weird mix of excited and kind of nervous about the return of the league and kind of life going back to normal. But we'll just hope everybody does the right thing and we'll see how it kind of works out. So anyway, if people want to follow you on social media, it's at Forbes Presents, and there are links in the show notes for Instagram and Twitter and Facebook and things like that. People could hear you on the radio. And they can hopefully see you soon, whether it's on YouTube or Facebook or live in the stands at some point. So
fingers crossed.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
And that does it for this week's episode of the Southampton Delivery Podcast. Thank you so much for joining us. I hope that you've enjoyed it. Special thanks this week goes out to Steve Forbes. You can find him on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at Forbes Presents. The links are in the show notes if you'd like to get in touch with him. And next time you're around St. Mary's, I don't know when that will be, but say hi. Hopefully he's winning the halftime relay or maybe tripping up Sammy. Maybe he will get to bury a penalty against him one day. But anything we can do to help Steve overcome that obstacle, because he's not Kenzie, but, there's only one of those. So anyway, thank you once again for listening. I hope that you enjoyed it. If you want to follow this show on social media, you can do that. We are at SFCDELL_IVERY on both Twitter and Instagram. We're also on Facebook at Facebook.com/SFC Delivery. The easiest way to get that and links to the show and everything else that we or I offer, including the newsletter, is to visit SouthamptonDelivery.com. That is the show website. On there, we have links for everything that's mentioned in the show. So head on over there, SouthamptonDelivery.com, and keep up to date with the show. Southampton page is the partner page of the show. They are on Twitter at Southampton page. Go to them. They will keep you up to date with what's going on at the club. The logo was designed by Matt Beeling of the We Are Southampton page on Instagram. Get in touch with him as well for high quality artwork, Matchday edits, polls, competitions, and more. If you're really enjoying the show, you can head on over to patreon.com/SFC Delivery. Patrons help keep the show going. They get access to extra episodes of the podcast, and they get priority for having their questions answered on the show each and every week. All music for the show comes courtesy of the Free Music Archive at freemusicarchive.org. The intro song is Epic Song by Box Cat Games, and the end of show credits that you're listening to right now is Aim is True by Poddington Bear. We'll be back with a newsletter on Friday. We'll be back with another episode of the show next week as we inch closer to the return of Premier League football. Thank you once again for listening. I look forward to talking to you again next time. And until then, remember that together, we march on.